Hello there. I am Gabriel from Zivra. Today, I came to show you the integration of Moderne within a CI and CD pipeline. For this demo, I have built a simple pipeline that enforces code quality and security by integrating a few tools. So let's check the toolchain. I'm using GitLab for storing and versioning the code, Harness for CI and CD execution, Nexus repository for artifact management, Nexus Lifecycle for software composition analysis, Maven for building the application, Moderne for code quality by using a static application security test recipe, Jira for deployment approval, and Kubernetes for application deployment. To test the pipeline, I am using a demo application that is a fake web pharmacy named IWA. The IWA pharmacy was written in Java and was designed as a microservice. It will be built and copied into a Docker image. And this image will be run as a container inside the Kubernetes cluster. This application has a few vulnerabilities and some programmatic issues. Thus, it will provide a good scenario to show Moderne working. The first thing to do is to set up the integrations for the Moderne workflow. So here is the ingestion workflow diagram. Based on Moderne documentation, I have set up the ingestion pipeline that is responsible for generating the AST file of the application. This file is a tree representation of code and is used to run the recipe and generate the new code with the recommended changes. The orange lines represent the processes executed by the Moderne GitLab pipeline, which generates the AST file and saves it into our Nexus repo. The yellow lines represent the processes executed by the Moderne agent, which retrieves the latest AST file and uploads it to the Moderne SaaS. This is a repository that triggers the ingestion pipeline, and I have set the application's repo path at repositories.csv. Here, I wrote the application repository name. The pipeline declaration includes a Moderne template that handles the CSV and then creates and triggers a second pipeline that will clone the application repo and generate the AST file. I have also deployed the Moderne agent as a container inside an EC2 instance. Here, we can see the index updates for the Nexus repo, so it can detect changes and upload them to Moderne SaaS. Now, let's switch to the application repo. Here, we can see the image Docker file. And here we can see that we copy the buildjar file to the image. We also have the Kubernetes manifest to create the containers that will be handled by Harness. There is only a deployment manifest to create the containers and the service that will publish the application outside the cluster. Let's switch to Harness and check the pipeline. So here we have a visual representation of the pipeline containing 6 stages that I will explain in detail. The underlying of what we are seeing here is a YAML file. Every stage is compounded by a few steps. Let's start with the first stage, scan and build. This stage has 3 steps. Build app builds a .jar file using Maven. Nexus IQ Scan runs a software composition analysis over the code. Build push Docker image builds an image based on the Docker file inside the project. Switching to the parallel step, Moderne ingestion, we can see 3 steps that run some HTTP requests to the GitLab API and Nexus Repo API. Start ingestion job triggers the Moderne catalog pipeline. Here we can see the URL for the GitLab API. The fetch ingestion job status will be polling the pipeline status via GitLab API until it finishes. As the polling assertion waits for a successful result, it is expected that some errors will be thrown while the pipeline is still running. There is a retry logic for this. The Run Moderne Nexus task will trigger a Nexus task that will publish Maven indexer files, ensuring that all artifacts created by the ingestion job are accessible to the Moderne agent. After building the application artifact and its AST file, it's time to run the recipe. Here, 5 defined steps interact with Moderne API to run the recipe. Run recipe runs the recipe whose name is defined into a variable. In this specific case, we are running the recipe named as Common Static Analysis for Java. By searching for the name of this recipe in Moderne, we can find more information about it. This recipe is composed of a big list of other recipes. The wait step just pauses the pipeline for 10 seconds so the recipe status can be updated. Poll results queries the recipe's run status until it finishes. As the polling assertion waits for a successful result, it is expected that some errors will be thrown while the pipeline is still running. There is a retry logic for this. Retrieve repository queries the repository references inside Moderne and its state. Pull request creation creates a pull request or a merge request based on the recipe result and leaves some information about the pipeline run at the merge request description. Advancing to the next stage, the pipeline creates a Jira ticket with the merge request created in the previous stage. Here, the merge request list is fetched, and the Jira ticket is created with the merge request of this pipeline run. The first step just pauses the pipeline for 2 minutes until the merge request is created by Moderne. The second fetches the merge request list, and the third one creates the Jira ticket with information fetched in the previous step. The next stage creates another Jira ticket for deployment approval. The first step creates a Jira ticket with some information from the pipeline. The second step waits for ticket approval. In Jira, there are 2 configured workflows for tasks that allow approval or rejection of tickets. The step will be fetching Jira API every minute until approval or rejection criteria are met. If approved, the pipeline resumes. If rejected, it will be aborted. The third step will close the open ticket. The last stage deploys the application as a container using the built Docker image into a Kubernetes cluster. So, after taking an overview, now I'm going to do a small change to the source code. After pushing it to the repo, the pipeline will be triggered as we have a rule configured to watch this type of action on the repo. As you recall, this is the main page of the application with some random lorem ipsum texts, and now we are going to add a simple widget here at its bottom. So let's switch to the code and add the widget right now. So I'm copying the widget code and pasting it in our made code. and changes were committed and pushed. Now we can check the pipeline status. Here we can see a blue box which indicates that the pipeline is running. We are seeing the pipeline stages and their statuses. Right now, the environment is being prepared for the next steps to be run. And now the application is being built. So the ingestion pipeline was triggered, and as expected, it had some errors on the fetching step as the pipeline didn't finish. Let's check its status. Here we can see that the AST file is being generated. Let's wait until the ingestion pipeline is done. I will pause the video and return when it is finished. The publish Maven indexers file task was run. We can see the Moderne agent logs that the AST file was changed and then uploaded. Here it is. The AST file was downloaded. Let's take a look at the build stage. This stage is still running, so let's wait until it finishes. We already have our application built, scanned and packed into a Docker image that was also sent to the Nexus repo. Let's check now the recipe run. The recipe was triggered and its ID was generated as an output. I will copy the ID and now we can see it in the Moderne interface. Let's navigate to the recipes list. Here is our triggered recipe based on the ID. We can see that the recipe has run successfully and it contains the recipe result as commit diffs. At this point, the pull request creation has run. And we can see here the diff's reason. And at every recommended change, we can see this type of explanation. So our code quality is based on a real recommendation. Now let's return to the pipeline and check the pull request creation. As we can see, the step was run. We can check it on the commit list at Moderne. Let's see this created commit. As stated, the commit has run successfully. We also can access the merge request by being redirected to GitLab. In GitLab, we see the diffs generated by the Moderne recipe. And these changes are the same that we saw in the Moderne UI, but without the explanation of these recommendations. Let's get back to harness. At this point, we can see that a ticket was created in Jira, and it has the merge request information in it. Let's check the ticket in Jira. Here we can see the two tickets that were created while the pipeline was running. The first one is the merge request ticket, which points to the merge request created in GitLab. It also has information about this merge request, including the author. This other ticket is the approval ticket. As we mentioned before, we have two workflows to decide what we are going to do in the pipeline. So clicking in the actions for this ticket, we just click on the accept. Let's return to harness. Let's wait until the approvement assertion is done. We can switch to the console view and see here the assertion execution logs. Let's wait for improvement assertion. Our ticket was approved, and then our pipeline was resumed. And now our application is being deployed as a container in the deployment at the Kubernetes cluster. The deployment is done, so now we should be able to see the changes in the main page of the application. So let's switch to the application web page. Be sure to refresh it. Now we can see that our widget was added at the bottom of this web page. The merge request created on the application repository should be analyzed and then applied when possible, so we ensure that our code has the needed quality to be in a production environment. So as usual, we would just approve the merge request and apply Moderne's recommendations. Having a quick look into Nexus lifecycle, we can see the dependency tree of components and their statuses. Those shown in red have critical violations, those shown in orange have high violations, and so on. Well, that's it for today. We hope you enjoyed it. See you.